The next topic we're going to discuss on Boxing Bros is after the results of last night's heavyweight championship fight between Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury. Who are your top three heavyweights in the division? So I'll start this one off with Ned. Who are your top three heavyweights in the division?
I'm just gonna say this: the top three heavyweights in the division is AJ, and A. No, let me stop. But I gotta give it out to Fury. Fury's the man right now. He's number one. It gotta go AJ. Number three.
You just said Fury's number one,
but it gotta go AJ.
Number two, it has to go to AJ. Number three is Wilder, and then honorable mention goes Ortiz, Parker, and White.
You said Ortiz.
Not Ortiz, Ruiz. You know, my bad, yo. My bad. Don't get it crazy. Yeah.
All right, I still don't know your order, so I'm thinking you said Fury number one, Anthony Joshua number two, and Deontay Wilder number three.
Yeah.
Okay. G.
I actually agree with Ned on this one. I got number one, Tyson Fury. I got number two, Anthony Joshua. Number three, Wilder. But it's how I view it, so it's a little different. So, like, if you're going to look at titles, then obviously it would be AJ. You know what I'm saying? But based upon the record and the accolades and everything, I'm saying after last night, Tyson Fury is definitely number one, you know? And so Fury 1, AJ 2, and unfortunately Wilder number 3.
All right, man. It's between Complex and myself.
Oh, man.
I'm going to go and let Complex go last. Number one for me is the toughest spot because there's, for me, it's between Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury. Now, Tyson Fury is the man who beat Vladimir Klitschko and took the titles from him, the titles that Anthony Joshua currently holds. Mm-hmm. However, Joshua in his own right beat Vladimir Klitschko and did it in a more impressive fashion. Although it was after Fury did it, so Fury did it first and then Joshua did it, but he still beat Vladimir Klitschko. So they both have Vladimir Klitschko on their resume. Last night, Tyson Fury beat Deontay Wilder in impressive fashion. He stopped him in the 7th round. He punished him for 6 of those 7 rounds. I do believe Wilder did a lot of damage in the 2nd round to Tyson Fury. So 6 of the 7 rounds, I think he punished Wilder. But Joshua has notable wins. He's beaten multiple champions and multiple people in the top 10. So now it becomes, do I go with the guy who took the belts from Klitschko, freed the belts from Klitschko, and then beat the WBC heavyweight champion with 10 title defenses, the longest reigning heavyweight champion prior to last night, or Anthony Joshua? I have to be real. I have to go with the person who I think has the most impressive resume. And to me, that's Anthony Joshua. He's beaten the better opposition. He beat Vladimir Klitschko. He beat Joseph Parker. He beat Andy Ruiz. He beat Dillian White. He beat Alexander Povetkin. He beat all these guys who still have to fight each other, who are absent on Deontay Wilder's resume and Tyson Fury's resume. Tyson Fury's 2 biggest wins are Vladimir Klitschko and Deontay Wilder, and I have to be honest.
Those are pretty big, though.
Yeah, but I don't think Wilder's that good, and I've been saying it for years. And Wilder proved it last night. So, like, I can only give as much credit for the Wilder win as I think it deserves. I think Dillian White would beat Deontay Wilder. I think Joseph Parker would beat Deontay Wilder. I think Anthony Joshua would beat Deontay Wilder. I think Deontay Wilder is a guy who was matched carefully, with fighting guys who were inactive, and he picked a bad cherry, and it cost him his air of invincibility. So I got Anthony Joshua 1, Tyson Fury 2, and I have Andy Ruiz number 3 because he has a better resume than Deontay Wilder.
As I can go.
It's a fact. So anybody can't argue with me.
That's
do
an
it.
opinion, bro. But that's
Let's
incredible.
pull up the resume.
That's incredible. That's a really interesting point. That's crazy because I didn't expect that at all. I thought it would be more of a conversation of Joshua versus Wilder. But to say Joshua ahead of Fury, I never thought I'd have to actually defend Fury. For me, quickly, my list is Fury number 1, Wilder number 2, Joshua number 3. For this reason, Fury's number 1 because he beat Vladimir Klitschko. Vladimir Klitschko was the longest reigning champion at the time, 25 defenses. So he has to be number 1 for me. He left the sport, came back, and then got the WBC belt. So he beat the next longest reigning champion. So Tyson Fury, respect to him, he's the number 1. He's the number 1 guy. He has to be. All the belts that AJ's parading with, those are Fury's belts. He's just holding them. Fury never lost those belts in the ring. He was stripped of those belts. So those are still his belts. Joshua picked those all up off of guys who won them from vacants and whatever. He didn't win those belts from Fury. So Fury still gets the choice to keep those belts, to claim the energy from those belts. But fine. Then 2, the reason why I say Wilder is because I have to respect Wilder's reign for fighting for 5 years and being champion. All the guys that you mentioned that, Joshua beat and you want to give him credit for, what's funny is that all those guys are signed to Matchroom, which is so crazy. Everybody wants to give Wilder smack for basically not fighting Matchroom fighters. But first off, you said Joseph Parker. What's funny is that Joseph Parker was actually at Wilder's fight when Wilder fought Gerald Washington. And they had a conversation about fighting to unite the titles. But instead, Joseph Parker went on to fight Joshua. Now, if Wilder's so trash, why didn't Joseph Parker pick up the WBC and then go fight Anthony Joshua, who at the time had the IBF and the WBA? So if he was easy pickings, Joseph Parker had plenty opportunity to fight him. And Wilder tried to fight him, and he said, his team didn't want to fight me.
Here we go. How do we
But anyways, bro, I let you talk. Don't let me finish. See when they're trying to interrupt me? It's because they know I'm about to cook it. Well, I'm cooking right now.
No, you're not cooking nothing.
Let me finish.
Statements.
Let him rock.
And I have been letting him rock, though. Realistically, I have been letting him rock. But what he has the tendency to do is state opinion as fact. Like, he tried to fight Joseph Parker. How do we know he tried to fight Joseph Parker? You part of his team. You saw the contract he sent out. Yo, stick to what you can prove. This is what I mean about being objective. He put so much poison out there, he might as well be a part of the LDPC.
I'll send
Yo, go ahead, dog. Go ahead.
Look, man. You see, you interrupted me. I didn't interrupt you.
Because I state facts. You state opinions. And that's what annoys me. But go ahead.
Mad, dog. Anyways.
Boxing Bros UK.
Boxing Bros UK. These UK dudes are
Welcome to Manchester.
I know. Jeez. UK guys are so aggressive. I didn't realize it.
He's a proper winker.
Wilder, you want to give him credit for Dillian White, right? People like to bring up Dillian White. Oh, Joshua beat Dillian White. First off, Dillian White had opportunities to fight as the mandatory, to become the mandatory, and he turned those down. Wilder has fought better opposition than Dillian White. Then, instead of doing Dillian White as a voluntary, he fought Tyson Fury and Luis Ortiz. Luis Ortiz with Dillian White ducked. So I don't understand how Wilder's supposed to fight Dillian White when Wilder's fighting the guy that Dillian White doesn't want to fight, right? So all these things people want to take away from Wilder.
Say, this is where, like, I have to cut you off. You've been going, correct me if I'm wrong, he's been going for a very long time, right? Right? Facts. And now he's saying a lot of opinion that really isn't facts. He's saying that Dillian White ducked Luis Ortiz, which isn't true. Dillian White was simply saying, I already earned my shot at Deontay Wilder. Why should I have to keep fighting people? You keep telling me I got to fight this guy, then you give me a shot. Then you tell me I got to fight that guy, and you give me a shot.
Not true.
At what point do I earn my shot?
This is why I have to stop you because the WBC orders a final eliminator. He was ordered a final eliminator against Luis Ortiz, and he turned it down. So why did he turn that down? If Luis Ortiz is so trash, and first off, this is after Wilder beat Ortiz, right? So Wilder at the time was Ortiz at the time was Wilder's toughest fight. If the WBC champion had to take 10 rounds to beat him, and you watch that man in 2, doesn't that make you the man? Everybody's gonna be like, you're the next guy you should be fighting. So the WBC ordered that fight. So if Dillian turns it down, why is that Wilder's fault? That makes no sense.
So let's stick to the point of how everything he's saying is ridiculous, and then I just want to get my time because this dude has been going over time. He says that the WBC does title eliminators, right? So when they order an eliminator, it's the way you get your title shot, right? But Brazil won a title eliminator against Molina. Still didn't get him his title shot before Fury. right?
Fury was voluntary.
Because it was a voluntary, right? So what you're basically saying is White could do everything they asked him to do, and still someone could cut in and get the title shot before him. So I put it to you like this: White,
You know how boxing works. There's mandatories and there's voluntaries.
Hold on.
You choose. You have to fight a mandatory. You choose to fight a voluntary.
Hold on. See, all I'm saying is, you said they hold eliminators, and Brazil won the eliminator against Molina, so that afforded him a shot at Deontay Wilder before Dillian White. But still, a voluntary got the shot before Brazil. So they were behind on their eliminators, in fact. So they had to give Stavern one shot before they gave it to Brazil, and then they got to give it to Brazil before they gave it to Dillian, and somehow Fury crept up in there on a voluntary.
That's how boxing works.
So
this guy knows this. What kills me is that this guy knows this, but he's acting.
But his point still valid.
Exactly.
What is the
My
point?
point is
Get
valid.
to the point.
If you shut up, you would understand the point.
Relax.
Okay, thank you. So, once again, they're behind on eliminators, right? So Dillian White could fight Luis Ortiz, and then they're still going to make someone else. Oh, we pulled Stavern before you, we pulled Brazil before you, and then you're going to have to fight this guy. How did Fury jump in? Fury actually jumped in and took his title shot against Wilder last night, is the point. So if he would have fought Luis Ortiz, he would have fought him for no reason. And his same logic was, correct me if I'm wrong, but if Wilder would have signed the contract with DAZN, it would have been for no reason because Joshua lost to Ruiz. The same logic would apply to Dillian White. He would have fought Ortiz for no reason because he lost the title to Tyson Fury last night.
No, he's the mandatory for the WBC.
So even if
he's still the mandatory, he's already the mandatory now.
Yeah.
He
got to win fighting Oscar Rivas.
Then he'll just be fighting Fury.
But my point is, so it's
not a waste of time.
It's not a waste of time. He got that without having to fight Ortiz. Is my point. So exactly
because he fought Rivas. Because he ducked Ortiz. So you just made my point.
It's not that he ducked Ortiz, bro. Anyways,
so why didn't he fight Ortiz?
Anyways, let me go back to another.
You never answered that question. Why didn't he fight Ortiz?
Because you keep telling him to fight people, and then you'll make him the mandatory.
No, that was the first person they told him to fight. He was supposed to fight Luis Ortiz, and he gets a mandatory. Instead, he fought Chisora for the second time. If he had beat Ortiz when they ordered it, Wilder would have never fought Ortiz a second time.
And you know that because you're part of the WBC and you're inside.
These
and
are the
stuff, right?
You can follow if you follow the sport
if that's the
and
case,
you know what
they
say, you can see that.
Why? All I'm saying is, like, it would be one thing if all these procedures and like the guidelines you're saying actually added up, but they don't add up. When you factor in that people kept cutting in, and then they grabbed this mandatory, and then
you
they
acting
grabbed
like you don't know how boxing works.
No,
there's
how am I acting like I don't know?
Let me respond to you. There's mandatory defenses, and then
we're
there's
spending a lot
voluntary
of time on something that's irrelevant right now. It's not mandatory defenses. Is not a part of this argument right now. But I get it. I get it. I know it's not.
You want to
no,
say,
it's not.
First off, Wilder's the champion, but you guys are saying none of these guys put themselves in the position to fight Wilder. So Wilder has to chase all these guys. So basically, you want Wilder to sign with Matchroom.
Welcome to the
You want Wilder to sign with Matchroom so that he can fight all these guys.
Welcome to the complex hour, because anytime you start putting it in, he got to keep talking. Like
Bro,
I said,
because you're wrong. You're so wrong.
How about this? All right, fellas. One person speak at a time.
All right.
Let the person finish. So first off, just let the person finish. And
how about you let somebody else talk who
I put my
speak the majority of the time, right? Thank you. All I want to do is make one point. Because, see, he's still stuck on this point. I just want to make another point of how he screws himself. Correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm not going to ask him, but I want someone to be objective, and hopefully you can be objective. He made the statement that Anthony Joshua is holding Tyson Fury's belts. Did he not make that statement?
Yeah, he did.
Did he not make that statement? And I think that he's saying that because he won those belts when they were vacant. Meaning that basically Joshua's not a real champion because he's holding someone else's belts. But the same way Wilder won his belt was by fighting someone who won a vacant title. So now you ask me why I don't respect Wilder as a champion for the same reason that you saying that Joshua held titles, bro. Yeah, come on, man.
When it comes to Fury versus Joshua, no. When it comes to that's so irrelevant. That doesn't make any sense.
No, it's not irrelevant.
Between Joshua and Fury is a conversation. Wilder has nothing to do with this.
Every time you
Wilder has nothing to do with this.
Did you
I said Fury, Wilder, Joshua. And I said the reason why Fury's ahead of Joshua because he put Joshua ahead of Fury. I said that makes no sense. How can Joshua be ahead of Fury when Fury never lost those belts?
He got Wilder ahead of Joshua.
So why is Wilder ahead of Joshua?
That was I thought that would be the conversation, but he was so out of the window,
so
putting Joshua ahead of Fury.
So what's more outrageous? Me putting Joshua ahead of Fury or putting Wilder ahead of Joshua?
That's what I'm saying.
Come on, bro.
Wilder has one loss to the one guy who beat the former lineal champion. Joshua got
Joshua.
No,
Joshua
he doesn't.
beat the former lineal champion.
No.
Yes,
Joshua has a loss to Andy Ruiz who came out of nowhere. So it's not the same thing. That could be Wilder's one loss. That could be Wilder's one loss of his career. Joshua got beat by a regular guy. Andy Ruiz was a regular guy. He wasn't a top 10 killer. He wasn't.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Has Tyson Fury beat Andy Ruiz?
Oh my God! You put all these you try and set these parameters that make no sense.
I'm setting facts.
How is he supposed to? So because he didn't follow Joshua's schedule,
technically are.
What does that matter?
I'm trying to understand.
What does that matter? What does that mean?
I'm going to tell you why it matters. We're talking about ranking these fighters.
Mm-hmm.
So if they have common opponents, right, then you can rank them.
How about this question? What was Andy Ruiz's ranking prior to fighting?
Andy Ruiz has 2 losses. One split decision loss to Joseph Parker in the fight for the vacant title, right? In which many people believe that he won.
And then he was inactive.
And then his second loss was to Anthony Joshua. When Joshua fight him, he actually wasn't inactive. He fought Dermotrenko 5 months before that, and he won. So once again, know your facts.
Your facts. Guess what? Fury fought 2 fights before he fought Wilder the first time. So know your facts. He wasn't out of the ring for 3 years.
Did I not say that?
What are you talking about, dog?
Did I not say that?
You said the same thing.
Can I just ask both of y'all a question?
Did I not say that?
I'm just asking.
This is wild, dog. He omits
Did I not
facts.
say that?
But what?
I
omit facts.
Did I not admit that he took two tuna fights?
No, you did not.
Fellas,
You said he was out for 3 years.
Order. All right. Now,
Bro, you
can I just ask this question? If y'all don't know, just say you don't know. What was Andy Ruiz's ranking when he fought AJ the first time?
He was like 4.
He was unranked.
No, he was ranked.
He was not ranked, bro.
Bro, are you kidding me?
He was out of the.
How did he get the shot against Joseph Parker if he was never ranked? Remember, they give the vacant titles shots to people who are ranked.
When was the Joseph Parker fight?
It was like
what was it? It was years
I'm not gonna lie, bro. I don't lie and make up stuff.
I can tell you when.
Tell me when, and then
I can tell you
what
when.
I was saying is this is gonna make or break either or's argument, because if Andy Ruiz is unranked nobody, like I guess like Complex you're implying, then I can kind of see your argument. However, if he's a top tier fighter who is ranked, you can't say
ranked in
that.
the top 10. What are we saying?
I mean,
that's what he's saying. Top 10.
Was he in the top 10 at the time?
Yes,
no, he wasn't. He wasn't, bro. I can tell you why. Because after the Joseph Parker fight, he basically fell out of the sport. He was with Top Rank. Let me finish. He was with Top Rank, and then he had to buy himself out of his contract. He signed with PBC. He fought Dermotrenko on the undercard of some fight. So he was. So when Big Pharma got drug tested and came out, they needed to find somebody on short notice. He had just finished a training camp, and he DM'd Eddie Hearn, was like, yo, let me get the shot. So Eddie Hearn was like, fine, I'll give it to you. You came off a fight, whatever. And he thought this is going to be easy work. But Andy Ruiz wasn't supposed to beat Joshua. Andy Ruiz was a huge underdog. He wasn't ranked. He hadn't fought in a long time.
That's not why he was a huge underdog.
How about this, Mo? As a Wilder fan to a Wilder fan, let's just be real. We all, I think you could believe this. AJ has fought tougher opposition than Deontay Wilder, correct?
That's a matter of opinion.
But what do you think? No, what do you think? Be honest.
I think Wilder's better than Joshua. I think if they ever fought, Joshua would be.
Your opinion is not what he asked you.
That's not what I asked. Who fought the tougher opposition?
If you want to talk about the rankings, then you can give it to Joshua.
All right,
but my point is this. Can I counterpoint that?
You want us to use your opinion over objective?
No, that's not an objective fact.
That's my point.
The reason why Wilder never fought those guys, you got to remember, there's boxing politics.
No.
Wilder tried to fight.
How do you know that's the reason you never fought? Yo, you can't state that's the reason why
you can't let me finish, dog.
I don't want your opinions, dog. I don't want your opinions. I just want objective.
Look up Andy Ruiz's ranking.
For starters, F this whole Andy Ruiz ranking stuff. He's not the final determiner. Listen, Andy Ruiz was a top fighter. He fought for the title.
Top
He
fighter.
lost. Listen, he lost a split decision to the champion, and that was his only L. Then he went in there and he KO'd Joshua. Okay, and then in the rematch, Joshua won. He's never lost to bums. He's an elite fighter. You cannot deny that.
that's
So I don't
okay.
want to hear
But
anything
now-
you
so
gotta
now,
say.
what
But
I'm
hold
saying
on,
is
one more
this.
thing. Just to be completely objective. This is Box Rec. This is Box Rec. Oh, let's go to Box Rec's rankings for the top heavyweights in the world. Who do they have ranked number 1?
Anthony Joshua.
Who do they have ranked number 2?
Tyson Fury.
Who do they have ranked number 3?
This is some BS. Alexander Usyk.
Who do they
doesn't
have
make
ranked
any
number
sense.
4?
Andy Ruiz.
So the guy I have is number 1. Box Rec has him as number 1 too, right?
Box Rec
I don't know
rankings
how
are way
Usyk
out of whack.
is
How is
ranked
Usyk
number 3
who's
in
not-
the heavyweight
so-
division.
That shit.
I'm not
defeats the
crazy.
person.
So I'm not crazy,
That
right?
thing took
Okay,
itself
thank
out
you.
of conversation.
So I'm not
Just by
crazy.
putting Alexander Usyk.
So Box Rec is more in line with me, except my number 3 guy is their number
does the-
4 guy.
what does
But
the
your
ring
guy
say?
has failed to top 5.
What does the
wait,
ring
wow.
say?
But-
What does the ring say? What does ESPN say,
Nah,
bro?
all
Come
right,
on,
but
get
hold
out
on,
of here, dog.
complex. I need to understand why you have Wilder still ranked over Anthony Joshua currently.
And let me. That's the conversation I thought.
That's what I'm trying to
The reason
understand
why
right now.
The reason why I do is because Wilder was the boogeyman of the division. Wilder's a champion. But hold on, all these guys have chances to fight the champion. You're the champion, right? So hold on, let me finish.
Hold
on.
No, because he
You gotta
always
let-
says
let him
no.
finish. I want to see his
always
argument.
says
Walk with
I
me
wanna
on
see
this.
an
Walk
argument.
with me. Let's take a walk.
Right?
Right? All the guys.
We
you
hiking.
give- All
Let's
the
go.
guys.
We hiking.
All the guys you give Joshua credit for beating, Wilder doesn't get the chance to get that credit because they didn't want to fight Wilder, right? You want to bring up Dillian White, Povetkin, and Joseph Parker. Joseph Parker had a shot. If Joseph Parker wanted to fight Wilder, that fight could have happened. If Dillian White wanted to fight Wilder, that fight could have happened. And Povetkin,
So hold on.
So
No,
you're giving him
no,
all
no,
the credit.
I gotta-
State's garbage that
Yeah,
isn't
listen.
true and he can't prove
I think I got
it,
you.
I can absolutely
Okay,
prove it.
So hold
Thank
on.
you.
So
Thank
you
you.
want to give Wilder credit for fighters he didn't fight.
Exactly.
But you don't want to give AJ the credit
No,
for
I give
fighting
AJ
them.
beating
I
them.
give AJ
Thank
credit.
you, I respect that.
Yeah,
I
that's
give
right.
AJ.
listen what
I didn't
you're
take
saying.
credit from
I listen what you're
AJ.
saying.
I didn't take credit from
That's
AJ.
actually
But the
beautiful.
facts matter. If these guys didn't want to fight Wilder, how can he take?
But that,
lose
yo,
fights?
but even let's say you're 100% correct. on that. All of these guys were ducking Wilder.
Yeah.
I still don't understand how you're gonna say he's number 2 by default because he's the boogeyman.
Because he was number 1 at the time. Him and Fury
This
were
is
1
sad,
and 2.
bro.
They just
This
fought.
is sad.
They just-
I'm not even trying to be funny, yo. I'm really
hold
trying
on,
to
let me, I
understand.
can tell you,
Yeah.
they just fought for the ring belt, which means the number 1 and number 2 in the division. So if he lost to number 1, if he was number 1 and number 2, or 1A, 1B, as people said, then he just lost to the best, the cream of the crop. He hasn't lost to anybody else. So until he loses to somebody else, he can't drop any further. He's still number 2 to me, and that's a matter of opinion. If you guys want to say
okay,
Joshua,
so it's a matter of opinion. I respect.
well, yeah, nothing matters until they fight, right?
Alright,
So
cool.
it's all a matter of opinion. But for me, I still put Wilder at number 2 because we still have to see what happens next, right? But Joshua hasn't fought Fury or Wilder. Fury and Wilder fought each other, number 1, number 2. Fury got that, but Wilder's still number 2. Until further notice, he's number 2. Now let's see what happens next.
Can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question? You see how this is a hypocrite. I'm gonna show you how, right? He said these guys never want to fight, so he gives Wilder the credit as being a boogeyman. So what does that make you when you offer someone $100 million contract to fight you when they don't take it? So now can I consider you the boogeyman, and can you get that win? So now not only does Joshua have wins over top 10 opponents, but he has wins over Deontay Wilder,
Bro,
which
this-
makes him.
But hold on.
Before Joshua never offered him that.
But you see, the way he painted that picture, you're doing technically the same thing. You know, because it's like you're saying, well, you know, they're running. We don't know that for an actual fact, right? But I have to take your word for it. But we do know that AJ offered him a contract.
Did AJ offer him a contract? Which contract was it? Which one are you talking about?
Are you serious? Yo, I'm done. Yo,
No,
I'm done. Yo, give a
no.
disclaimer.
The DAZN deal. The DAZN deal was a network deal.
Okay.
They didn't have. They were on a fight-by-fight basis with AJ. There was no guarantee he was going to fight AJ.
Hold on, you're telling me that DAZN offered him a 3-fight deal, but you're saying that AJ had nothing to do with the deal.
They were going to,
even though they were saying
they were
for
going to pay him
AJ
50
versus
million
Wilder
to fight
for
Dillian.
Fury.
Yeah,
Hold
come
on.
man.
First off, that deal was so bad, dog. First off, you were signing the deal.
That deal
You
was so
don't
bad,
know-
he's never going to make that
You
money
don't
again.
know- you
What are you
don't know,
talking
bro.
about? Yo, I can't.
You don't know
Disclaimer,
what
dog.
AJ's
Disclaimer. We
making.
done.
You're signing a deal where you're going to make the same money for the first fight
I am
and the
so
second
confident
fight, dog.
I don't have to respond that everyone watching this is going to see the manslaughter that
Bro,
took place.
this is
Just give a
ridiculous,
disclaimer.
dog.
Just
I
give a
mean,
disclaimer. Just give a
complex. You're
disclaimer,
not
dog.
really,
Just give a
you're
disclaimer.
not
Hold
really
up.
like
We knew-
holding it
but
down.
hold up. We
Oh,
knew
I'll
what
have to
AJ
do
was
the
making,
disclaimer.
though.
The views and opinions of
Yeah.
our
No,
boxing
I
bro
mean, sorry.
cousin.
Close us out. Close us out. I'll close us out. Look, thank you for watching.
Now, hold on,
this video.
let him finish his last point.
But he's been talking the whole
but
time.
I'll give you
Like,
30
yo.
seconds to finish your point. Just 30 seconds uninterrupted. Make your solid argument on why Wilder deserves to be ranked number 2 over AJ. Go.
Wilder's the longest reigning champion currently until last night. So he was champion for 5 years. Never lost his belt, never lost a fight. He only lost one fight to the number 1 ranked contender. So that means that his only loss was to the top guy who beat the last top guy. And I give respect to Fury making him number 1. But for me, from my perspective, when your one loss is to the one top guy and you beat everybody else, that means you're number 2. Nobody else beat him. Nobody else tried to beat him. Nobody could beat him. So Wilder is still number 2 to me because he's longer reigning champion. He's longer reigning than Joshua, who has the other belts, and any other champion in recent memory. Or even before that, Klitschko was the longest reigning champion. So you got to give him respect for his resume and what he's done. If you reign for 5 years, that's impressive. You can't tell me that he's a bum when you for 5 years nobody could beat you. Come on, if you're such a bum, somebody would have figured it out. Somebody would have caught you. Even the greats have been caught. Klitschko's been caught. Lennox has been caught.
You bring your
He's
point.
never
you bring
lost.
Your point. Go ahead. Finish.
Oh no, I ain't had no point. I was just saying cut off 30 seconds.
Oh.
Just wait 30 seconds.
You wanna-
Respectfully, my only response is you can't call someone number 1 until they prove they're number 1. Unless you're undisputed, it means it could be disputed. That's why the term undisputed was made, because the only way there'll never be a dispute is if you fight one another. One guy has had a number of title unification fights. One guy has shown he wants to unify the division by taking title fights against multiple title holders. One guy has never had a title unification fight in his entire career, and last night he lost the title. So for all this talk about this dude wanting to unify and all that, I can't go off of opinion. I can only go off of fact. Everything I'm telling you is not my opinion. It's a fact. Anthony Joshua has had a number of title unification bouts, holds 4 titles. I believe that he wants to be undisputed champion. Tyson Fury just beat Deontay Wilder for the belt. He's not mentioning fighting Anthony Joshua. Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury, neither one of them have beat Anthony Joshua. I can't give you credit for beating someone until you fight him. If before last night, the majority of the people were saying that Tyson Fury couldn't knock out Deontay Wilder. Majority of the people were picking Deontay Wilder to beat Tyson Fury. And what we saw last night was you can sometimes expect the unexpected. We won't know what's going to happen until the fight happens. Neither one of them have fought Anthony Joshua. Until they fought Anthony Joshua, we can't say they're number 1. They need to fight for number 1. The reason I make Anthony Joshua number 1 is because he's beaten more top contenders.
Please like, share, subscribe. It's the Boxing Bros.
Check out the podcast. Check out the podcast.